What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Farzy Show, presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. It's just wonderful to have you along for the ride. The All-Star Game we'll get into. Bryce Harper's pregame comments about being simpatico with Dave Dombrowski, as one would assume. And then the game actually happened, and all the Phillies shined, really. They shined. That was great. Talking about the All-Star Game always makes me feel like a kid. And it's the fan part of me that is still very much alive and well, that enjoys the All-Star Game so much and does take me back to my childhood when it comes to a game like this. We also have continued conversation about Jalen Hurts and his place in the NFL, which I'm just still dumbfounded by the way people are approaching this. It's just asinine. That'd be a good word to use. And the apple of your eye when it comes to the second half of the season and things we need to see from the Phillies in the second half of that season. And no, not just Dave Dombrowski wheeling and dealing, but in-house what the Phillies need to do with the current roster that is assembled. If it doesn't change too much, if Dave Dombrowski looks at this and goes, hey, we've been like the best record in baseball for the vast majority of the last 2 months, 2.5 months, let's just keep going with that. He could just very well think that and make moves. I don't want to have to mortgage the future. Right now, we're great. We don't need much to be better than great. We don't need much to be a World Series favorite. Oh, wait, we already are a World Series favorite. Oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? So it's very possible that Dave Dombrowski does not go out there and make the huge move. But one thing that has seemed to be pretty true is with Bryce Harper in the mix here, if he really wants to go after a player and bring him in here to the fold, he's going to get that player. And that's why I don't mind at all the little conversation that took place between Bryce Harper and Mason Miller on the way to the All-Star Game. Both of them speaking before the home run derby during the media session. And the story had come out that Bryce Harper wanted to see Mason Miller throw and then watched him throw and went, yep, I think I'm good. And the story got back to Mason Miller, and the two of them seem to be buddies. This is how it starts. Let the tampering begin. Not that Mason Miller has any control whatsoever. Young player. Can't dictate where he goes. It's not like he has a no trade clause in his contract. But I think it would certainly help the situation. Maybe the A's ask him, hey, we understand that you're a big trade chip here in Oakland. We understand that we could get a lot back for you. Is there any place that you'd like to go? Is there a list you'd like to go? I don't know of too many instances of that happening with a young player that is very much under contract for a long time. But it could happen. Brent Rooker, not part of the conversation right now, unfortunately, as far as the All-Star Game went. But whenever you hear Bryce Harper knocking on the door of another player or going out of his way to say hello to another player like he did with Mason Miller, that's obviously a really good sign for anyone that wants to see Mason Miller in a Phillies uniform and be at the back end of this Phillies bullpen. All in all, really enjoyed the All-Star Game last night, aside from just nostalgia. But before we go any further and really jump into things, I want to make sure we do get this in here. Now, she went viral. We talked about it yesterday after one of the worst national anthem renditions we have ever heard. And everyone jumped on it, myself included. And look, just judging it from a performance, which is, how performers are judged, it was terrible. I still didn't have it worse than Carl Lewis, but it was still pretty damn bad. Ingrid Andress did address the issue yesterday on social media, posting this to her Instagram. I'm not going to BS y'all. I was drunk last night. I'm checking myself into a facility. Now, I will say, before I saw the post, I heard about the post. And I said, when somebody said to me, it was actually when I was going into Fox 29 yesterday, somebody said, oh, well, you see, she posted she was drunk. And I'm like, what? Actually, I'm sorry, it was coming out of Fox 29. Oh, sorry, she said she was drunk. And I'm like, if you're going to publicly admit, or even this, if you're going to go into singing the national anthem and you're not going to have control over what you're doing, that's a problem, especially because it's a ginormous stage you're about to walk on for your career and not have control in that situation, then you're going to need some help with that. So when I finally got to read the post, it did say she's checking herself into a facility. This is yesterday, so she said I'm doing it today. That was not me last night. I apologize to MLB and all the fans and this country I love so much for that rendition. I'll let y'all know how rehab is. I hear it's super fun. Hugs and kisses, Ingrid. Let me just say that, hey, good for you. No jokes. No, this is a serious matter. Good for you, Ingrid. Good for you. You know what? I look forward to hearing you, down the line. Maybe I'll check out your music. I don't know. I also think I referred to her as a girl yesterday. She's 32 years old. She's a woman. All right. I didn't know anything about her. Seeing her sing the national anthem, I thought she was like an up and coming Taylor Swift type. I don't know, country music first, and then go to maybe a little bit more pop. You know what I'm saying? But hey, good for her. She's addressing a problem. I admire that. Anyone that can do it, I admire it. As for the game last night, every single Philly did what they were supposed to do, and there was one magical moment where they actually mic'd up. Now, this is the one instance where I have no issue whatsoever with players being mic'd up. You want to mic up players in an all-star game, an exhibition game, a spring training game, mic them up. But in the regular season, it's still really weird to me. I like the access, but I know it's wrong. You should be busy working. You know what I mean? But for anyone that had an issue with players being mic'd up or potentially being distracted from being while they were being mic'd up, while Bryce Harper, Alec Boehm, and Trey Turner, all three of them were mic'd up last night. Trey Turner made a spectacular diving play to get the 6-4 force out at second base. And while he's making the play, Bryce Harper's mic'd up and like, oh, hell yeah. Yeah, that's it. Oh, way to go. All right. Yeah. It was awesome. I loved it. I ate it up. First off, just having the three of them on mic at the same time was great. And then to have Trey Turner make that play, fantastic. If you missed it, that was something worth watching. But Bryce Harper got a double. Trey Turner got a hit. Alec Boehm got a hit. Excuse me. And then all three of the bullpen arms for the Phillies did themselves a hell of a job. Christopher Sanchez came in there, got you 2 outs on 2 pitches. Don't have to worry about workload for him. Then later on, you had Matt Strahm come in. He got 1 out on a strikeout. That was nice to see. And then you had Jeff Hoffman come in and pitch get the final out for the National League using 4 pitches in his 1 inning of work. Not too bad. Outside of what the Phillies did, Shohei Ohtani. I was really hoping that if you were going to have, Christopher Sanchez wasn't going to get MVP. Matt Strahm wasn't going to get MVP. Jeff Hoffman wasn't going to get MVP. I was really hoping that Harper would come up, get a first inning home run, or Trey Turner would do something huge, or Alec Boehm obviously do something phenomenal. Didn't happen. 2 singles and a double in the mix wasn't enough to do it for the Phillies in the All-Star game and the National League overall, taking the 5-3 loss to the American League. And wouldn't you know it, Jarren Duran ended up being the All-Star game MVP with his 2-run home run that broke a 3-3 tie and gave the American League the victory over the National League last night. But all in all, it was just fun. I really think Texas, I thought, did a great job with their presentation. I thought the broadcast was fun. Miking up players. You want to talk about weird? It is weird miking up the pitcher. That is something that feels wildly invasive, but they did it last night. And in this game, it's fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy the access. The players are just having a good old time. But now it's going to be back to business for the Philadelphia Phillies. And before the game last night, Bryce Harper was on with the Fox crew. And he was talking about how this season has been magical in Philadelphia. And the question, I think it was from Kevin Burkhardt that asked the question, everything seems to be coming together in Philadelphia. And it seems like you, Bryce, even though this was his first All-Star appearance as a Philly, which they said last night on the broadcast, and it was, I know I've said this phrase a lot. It's one of those things that I knew, but I just didn't realize. Like, it didn't really sink in. Like, oh my God, that's right. This is his first time in the All-Star game as a Philly. He has been an MVP. He hasn't been an All-Star. All right. So I'm watching this last night before the game, And Bryce Harper is on with the pregame crew. And it's like it feels like you've been a Philly forever. What has come together so well in Philadelphia? What has worked so well in Philadelphia that has made it as magical as it's been with a World Series appearance, a win shy of making it to a second consecutive World Series, and, of course, making an All-Star game and also winning an MVP?
Super grateful to be there. I mean, just to be able to be part of a city and a culture and a team like this, it's been incredible. This is the best team I've ever been on by far, just top to bottom, from John Middleton, our owner, to Dave Dombrowski, to Rob Thompson and everybody down. I mean, our whole team full of leaders and young guys and rookies. I mean, it's been the whole 40-man roster this year as well, just because guys are getting hurt, guys are stepping up, and people have seen what this team is made of. And we got a long ways to go, obviously, but we're having a lot of fun.
It certainly seems like they're having a lot of fun. And I know that people dismiss a lot of what Bryce Harper does as pandering, and you guys heard me say it yesterday after the home run derby with the whole water jug thing. You know, if this is it even pandering? If this is just how he is, you know, I really do. I can't think of too many people that came into Philadelphia and just got it immediately. Now, of course, again, I am talking about a guy who already was an MVP. A guy who did win an MVP here, a guy who has helped this team win over the last 2 seasons tremendously and helped to turn around to actually make Citizens Bank Park the party that it has been. Make it that party again, the same way it was in the Howard, Utley, Rollins, and Hamels era of the Philadelphia Phillies. And same thing to be said with the Cliff Lee and Roy Halladay Philadelphia Phillies and all that, how amazing that was. To make CBP the party that it is now, Bryce Harper had a hell of a lot to do with that. And Dave Dombrowski has also had a hell of a lot to do with that. And Bryce Harper is one of those people on a very short list that just came into Philadelphia and immediately got it. Sure, you could go with the pandering angle, but I really do feel like he wanted to, and now he wants to continue to be a part of this community and continue to really hit home runs, not just for the Phillies, but for the city of Philadelphia, to perform at a very high level for the city of Philadelphia and make the city of Philadelphia feel like they're in on the joke or they're in on the party. They have the invite because they're just as much a part of this run as anybody in that clubhouse. Anyone in the stands has just as much to do with it as anybody in that clubhouse. That's how Bryce Harper wants you to feel as a Philadelphia. And he certainly gets it. And it's not just about the way he plays on the field. It's the way he interacts with Dave Dombrowski. JT Real Muto, his favorite catcher in baseball. Voila! JT Real Muto is a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. You see Bryce Harper walking off the field during the pandemic after batting practice, if you remember this. And JT Real Muto's at the plate, and you hear Bryce Harper in the dugout going, "Sign him!" with the Fandemic crew in left field chanting, "Sign JT, sign JT." Next thing you know, JT Real Muto signed. Not bad. Hey, Bryce, who's your favorite baseball player? Who's your favorite player in the league right now to watch? Oh, Trey Turner. Trey Turner's my favorite player to watch right now. Oh, really? Voila! Off-season, $300 million, Trey Turner here in Philadelphia. After they lost the World Series to the Astros. Bryce Harper's at his locker in the clubhouse. So what do you see happening in this offseason? Well, I have every bit of confidence in Dave Dombrowski to add players to this team that are going to put us over the top. Unfortunately, it didn't happen last year, but Trey Turner was brought in here last year. Were they put over the top? Not quite yet. This year could possibly be over the top. I don't doubt that Dave Dombrowski is going to make moves at the deadline. The question is to the caliber of moves he's going to make. And I also don't question Bryce Harper and Dave Dombrowski having a conversation about what this team really does need. I found it really interesting that on the panel, you have Burkhart, you have Alex Rodriguez, and then you have Derek Jeter. In the middle of those two, you got Big Papi, David Ortiz, who was there in Boston with Dave Dombrowski. And he talked about the message that was going out there from Dave Dombrowski about, hey, what do you guys need to do to win? What do you guys need to have to win. And Dave Dombrowski was all over it. And those two got to compare notes. And that's when Big Papi asked Bryce Harper about everything that works behind the scenes, not just on the field.
Everybody. And we are such a good team with hanging out, going to dinner. You guys know how that is. When the camaraderie is good, when the culture is good in the clubhouse, there's nothing better. And Dave Dombrowski brings in the right guys no matter what. I got chills because I know exactly what Dave wants to do. He wants to win. And it's not just this year. Somebody brought it up today. Is it World Series or bust? No, it's World Series every year, right? Like that's what the mindset is. And you guys know playing in New York, that's what it is. You same thing in Boston. That's what it is.
He came to Boston while I was there to steal.
100%.
And the minute he walked in, he was like, what do we need to win here?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that's what he's doing
and
out there.
That's how he does it. And I respect the hell out of him because he does such a great job of doing that.
You absolutely love to hear stuff like that. And look, Dave Dombrowski, listening to Bryce Harper before the game talk about it, listening to that just made me feel like we were in such a good place in Philadelphia right now when it comes to general managers. We could go with the most recent, and it got me thinking right away about Paul George. And Paul George is going to be addressing the media next week for the first time as a 76er. Listening to that, listening to Howie Roseman talk about the offseason and being as aggressive as he was and has been this offseason. Over the years with Howie, since he retook control of roster responsibilities, Danny Briere and the Flyers and what they're doing with that squad right now, and Dave Dombrowski's proven track. I mean, Dave Dombrowski, of all the great things that we talk about with Howie Roseman, Dave Dombrowski has done it and done it in other places. I mean, you talk about 5 World Series appearances, winning 3 World Series in his career. I believe it's 2 in Boston, 1 in Miami, going to the World Series in Detroit, going to the World Series in Philadelphia. That's pretty damn good. And from the people that I talk to that are close with the team, people that cover the team, work with the team, they talk about Dave Dombrowski as almost like he's a deity. And no joke. They talk about Dave Dombrowski like this guy just lives, breathes baseball. Like he just understands the ebbs and flows of the game. He understands the numbers behind it. He understands the personalities behind it. He gets it all. If you're looking for someone who really understands how to balance analytics and the eye test of all the experience, it's Dave Dombrowski. And the track record is obviously there and it's proven. But it's how big the move he's going to make right now. And listening to Bryce Harper talk about knowing he knows exactly what Dave Dombrowski wants to do. He wants to win. And also knowing that he's going to look around the clubhouse and understand what it means to have, sure, the vibes guys, but also the guys that have that talent that are not going to disrupt the apple cart. The best thing I heard from Bryce Harper in that answer was the word understanding or understands. He understands what a clubhouse needs when it comes to the chemistry. I mean, Bryce Harper's talking about the stuff that everyone pushes away and said, that's just high school hairy stuff and chemistry's overrated or whatever. I don't think so. There have been plenty of super talented teams that have underachieved. There's been a lot of the scrappy teams that limp in with a wild card berth. Hello, Phillies. In a lot of instances, and they go on and they make a World Series. Or they go on and they win the World Series. I mean, you look at the Phillies getting bounced out in the playoffs in the times that we watched them take their steps back since the 2008 World Series. And they were an extremely talented ball club each and every year. And then sometimes they just ran into buzzsaws. I'm thinking about you, St. Louis Cardinals, in 2011, where the Phillies set their franchise record of 102 wins in a season. And in doing so, winning that series against the Braves, last series of the season, that allowed the Cardinals into the postseason. And I said, no, it might be a mistake. And it was, because the Cardinals ended up eliminating them terribly. I thought at the time that the Giants eliminating the Phillies in the World Series or in the playoffs, that was either a choke job or whatever. But then the Giants ended up winning like 2 other World Series, and Bruce Bochy became one of the greatest managers ever in the process. So, yeah, that kind of sucked, but that was a really good baseball team that you went up against. This Phillies squad right now, though, does need some tweaks. If you're able to add that guy that brings the talent and brings the personality that meshes with this clubhouse, the biggest piece that I feel like you could add is certainly that outfield bat. The smallest piece that still has a big impact, it would, of course, be the back end of the bullpen and bringing in a guy, yes, like Mason Miller, for instance. Those are guys that we just saw here in again with the Oakland A's in both Brent Rooker as well as Mason Miller. Cody Bellinger gets healthy. Maybe you're talking about him again. Maybe Ian Happ, also of the Cubs, another person we saw recently. These are all possibilities. But when it comes to the everyday player, that is what will, or not will, but has the potential to upset the apple cart the most. And the fact that Dave Dombrowski does weigh in personality, according to Bryce Harper, I think is a huge deal. Not that I think anyone could just come in here and hurt the great culture that has been bred over the last couple of years in that Philadelphia Phillies clubhouse. We talk about it all the time with the Eagles, how great the culture is, culture. And then you see the last 7 games of the season. What the hell about what happened to the culture then? You know what I mean? But at least that being on the mind of Dave Dombrowski is something that is not lost on me. It's certainly not lost on Bryce Harper. And one of the things that also makes me go back to is that when they made the decision to move on from Joe Girardi, I know it's not a player, but it certainly speaks to the clubhouse atmosphere and the culture. When they did that, one of the things Dave Dombrowski said about moving on from Joe Girardi and going to Rob Thompson was that you looked at Joe Girardi as a guy that kind of, any manager has a responsibility to keep a good atmosphere in the clubhouse, because in that atmosphere, players can perform their best. And whatever that atmosphere was that Joe Girardi was providing did not mesh well at all with that clubhouse. He leaves, Rob Thompson takes over, they go to a World Series. It's one of those things you can't measure. But in that same pregame interview, Bryce Harper was asked about Rob Thompson. And he was asked about what Rob Thompson brings to the table. And because again, you have 2 former Yankees in Alex Rodriguez and Derek Jeter, and they're asking about Rob Thompson. And A-Rod called him, of all the people that have been influential on my career, Rob Thompson's right up there with everybody. Like everyone who has been a huge influence to me, like most influential people, nobody more than Rob Thompson was the way that he phrased it. And Bryce Harper lit up. Absolutely lit up, and was like, this guy, to be around a better baseball mind than Rob Thompson is impossible. And talk about a guy with a phenomenal work ethic. We have a game at 7 o'clock. Excuse me. Rob Thompson is in the locker room, in the clubhouse at 7 a.m. getting ready for the game. He just eats, sleeps, breathes baseball all the time. And that's the guy you want in your clubhouse all the time. And the thing I said about Rob Thompson at the time they made the transition was it felt like he gave the team back to the players. Like when you can have maybe an overbearing personality, whether that was Ryne Sandberg taken over, or that is more recently Joe Girardi. The players want to feel like they're in control. The inmates run the asylum, as the old saying goes. Whatever it was, that little flip of the switch, it certainly helped this Phillies ball club, especially this year. I mean, you can talk about the end result, obviously, of getting to a World Series, of winning a National League championship. You can talk about getting back to another one the following year and just coming up that 1 win shy. Or you can talk about this year having the best record in baseball. The only team at the break with 60 wins. You got 62 of them in your back pocket. We've talked about the schedule already and what the Phillies could be looking at. Who the Phillies are going to be looking at. Coming back starting Friday with 3 games in Pittsburgh and then 3 games in Minnesota before coming back to face the Guards. Right? This is a tough stretch for the Phillies. You hope to get JT Realmuto back in the very near future. We'll all keep our fingers crossed for that. We'll also look at how this bullpen shakes out before any additions are made, because if there's one lock I see happening is that the Phillies do add a bullpen arm. I don't know if it's Mason Miller is going to be tough. And as much as Bryce Harper might want him, the A's are going to have the final say and all that and probably not give a damn about what Bryce Harper thinks. But as far as the other avenues the Phillies could go, I would guarantee they go with a bullpen arm in some capacity. And if they do add that bigger piece to be a corner outfielder or even a center fielder and keep Brandon Marsh in left field, even if they do, in fact, do that, that would be huge. That would be the biggest impact. I think the most likely scenario still is some kind of bullpen arm to help out this bullpen, because Jose Alvarado in particular has not looked sharp as of late. Matt Strahm looks like he has found his way again. Jeff Hoffman looks like he has certainly found his way. Jose Ruiz has hit a bit of a wall after a strong start back at up at the big league level. That has been a struggle for him, unfortunately. And that's not just judging him from the A's game. That's most recently. Gregory Soto, we all know, can be wildly inconsistent. Of all the units, I guess you could say, that has kind of limped into the All-Star break, the bullpen has certainly been one of them. And then you hope you get healthy pitchers again, like Ranger Suarez and Zach Wheeler, back in action as soon as humanly possible after the All-Star break, obviously. But of all these things, I think it's most likely that they bring in the arm for the bullpen, and then after that, they go into the outfield. It's just a matter of how big the acquisition is going to be when it comes to this Phillies squad and Dave Dombrowski. But love at least hearing that they're all on the same page. No question about that. As far as the rest of the All-Star game went, you saw Shohei Ohtani with a 3-run home run. You got to see Paul Skeens versus Aaron Judge, albeit one pitch. Gregory Soto said, was it before the home run derby? Or was it before last night's game? I think it was before last night's game. Juan Soto came out and said, "Oh, no. I'm gonna make sure that you get that matchup you want of Aaron Judge versus Paul Skeens in the first inning." And sure enough, Juan Soto worked a full count, worked the walk, got an inside fastball, I believe it was. They got away from Skeens, trotted down the first base line, and then here we were. The stage was set. Aaron Judge taking on Paul Skeens. One pitch, ground to Alec Bohm. That was that. It didn't last long. If you blinked, you missed it. But we got to see it at least. And then the mammoth home run by that Shohei Ohtani guy. That was pretty cool. Good stuff. Phillies back at it Friday. 76ers held had a summer league game yesterday. Jared McCain. Just when I say Jared McCain struggles, Sixers lose by 2. That feels like every single summer league game with the exception of maybe one. But they actually won last night. What? Yeah. They handed the Minnesota Timberwolves a little L in the loss. Oh, excuse me, in the win. And how about this? You also had an incredible performance. Well, I shouldn't say incredible. That might be overdoing it a little bit. You had a nice performance there from Jared McCain, who went out there and actually shot well for the Sixers last night. In total, Jared McCain, 21 points, 5 of 16 shooting. Not great, but okay. I'll take the 21 points out of it. Also, in last night's game, went to the free throw line 9 times, and he was 9 for 9 from the free throw line. That's the way that went down. Adembona had 10 points, 9 rebounds. Good to see that for him. And Ricky Council, the fourth, 13 points in the win. It was 90-92 was the final score. Yeah, 92-90, I should say. And Ricky Council, that was another thing I said yesterday. Was Jared McCain struggles, Sixers lose by 2, but Ricky Council, the fourth, had a cool dunk. Well, the Sixers won by 2. Jared McCain had a good game for himself, and Ricky Council, the fourth, still had a really cool dunk. This was late in the third quarter. He got a little bit of a run out, too much to call it a fast break, and threw it down with great authority, like he was angry at the rim. Also in the game, Jared McCain, his first points came on a 3 that was very deep. So dialing in that long-range game for the Sixers. But by the way, when I was watching the extended highlights of the Summer League game yesterday, I did see this. This is great. So Tyrese Maxey is doing an interview 2 games ago, and he's talking about his offseason. And this guy has always been so family-centric, and he talked about, like, one of the highlights of his summer was that, is that his sister got married. He, like, shouted out his sister for all that. It's like, how do you not love this guy more? This is like family first stuff. This is great. You love him already, and then you find out more stuff about him and all that. But one of the things I did find out was talking about him working on his mid-range game, which is such a lost art in today's NBA. And I'm watching last night, Jared McCain trying to work in the mid-range a little bit. I'm watching Ricky Council IV try to work on that in his game. And then to hear Tyrese Maxey just continue to try to add layers to his game. And that's when you hear about the truly great players. They are always adding to their arsenal. And you have some players that just feel like, no, I got this. I'm good. I want to get it better at everything. But when you really focus in on one thing, like for instance, Tyrese Maxey last year, going into last season, working on a step-back three-point game, and you see him shoot the best he ever has from three-point land. Like, the guy wasn't a point guard, and he's playing point guard for you 2 years ago, and he takes a huge step forward in being a point guard, being able to play that position as well as he did. And then, so you hear him about being more of a facilitator. He's a better facilitator. You hear him about being a better outside shooter. He's a better outside shooter. Now you're hearing him talk about being a better mid-range player. Okay. Because, I don't know, three or drive, not 3 and D. And wants to get better as a defensive player. He's gotten better as a defensive player. But in terms of not just being a perimeter player and a slasher, he wants to work on that in between. And I was thinking about with Tyrese Maxey, yeah, sure, that'll add to how dangerous he could be to guard. It puts another thought in the defender's head because once Tyrese Maxey puts the ball on the floor, you're dropping back to make sure that you can not that you don't get beaten to the rim with the incredible speed that he has. And we've had plenty of people on this show, whether it be Michael KB, whether it be our friend Paul Hudrick, talk about the speed of Tyrese Maxey and how there's nobody faster with the ball in his hands in the NBA than Tyrese Maxey. Now think about this. You're a defender, and you're squaring up with Tyrese Maxey, and he's about 5 feet behind the three-point line. You got to guard that shot. You also have to guard the idea of him blowing right by you to the rim. And now you got to go, oh, wait, he might just stop on a dime and pull up for a little 10-foot jumper. You keep on adding to your arsenal, and sooner or later, you wind up at unguardable, baby. When I think of mid-range game in the NBA today, I always think of DeMar DeRozan because he's one of the few people actually keeping that part of the game alive. It's not just, three or foul. I don't know what you would call it. But DeMar DeRozan, wonderful, phenomenal mid-range game. The idea to just keep on working on it. Look, even if he goes into this season and never shoots a 15-foot jumper, right? The fact that he's got it, it just reminds me of all the things that Ben Simmons wasn't. And I know that's a hard left turn, but it does make me think about when I see a player that is as dedicated to his craft as Tyrese Maxey is and gets it. We just talked about Bryce Harper getting it and understanding it for the Phillies. Tyrese Maxey is that same way. I don't compare the two more than that. I mean, the one is a great player, one is well on his way to being a great player. But with Maxey, the idea of always adding to his game is just something that separates the guys that come into the league and stay stagnant and the guys that just keep on ascending. And you could look at it, obviously he's been the most improved player, but think about what that means. Like, he's an all-star. When you think about the adversity that he's already seen in his career, having Doc Rivers his rookie year not really give him a lot of trust. And then the following year, Ben Simmons is out. Tyrese Maxey takes over as your point guard. He's learning to play with Joel Embiid. You see him continue to get better. He could be an elite scorer. He starts developing more and more into an elite scorer. Then you see James Harden come in. He takes a little bit of a step back. He learns a little bit more. He works hard. He works hard. He works hard. He gets better at that step back three. He becomes one of the best scorers on the team, makes an all-star team. The Ben Simmons fiasco, obviously a deterrent, but certainly set the stage for Tyrese Maxey to be like, okay, maybe that's how that guy handled it. That's not how I'm going to handle it. Kind of flew in under the radar as well. Talking about 21st pick. What? And he goes out there and he just keeps on improving. Becomes the steal of the draft. It's really it's insane to me that you can get as far as you can in the NBA, in sports in general, and then just say, I think I'm good here, and not at a very young age, especially decide, I'm good. I don't need to. What I'm doing now is fine. And to not have that with Tyrese Maxey, to have exactly what you want, which is a guy always working on his ability and making it better and maximizing his ability, it's a pretty fantastic thing. And there are moments, and they happen a lot in the offseason, where I just go, thank God this guy's ours. And I've said it before, that it's almost like Tyrese Maxey feels like an apology for all that was lost, all the chips that were cashed in after the process, whether it was Markelle Fultz or whether it was Ben Simmons. It's like, okay, well, you'll still have Tyrese Maxey. Okay, all right, well, that's good. That's all right. Wish I had him a little longer. Like, I wish somehow through time you could put Tyrese Maxey ahead with Markelle Fultz, but then he wouldn't develop as much because of Ben Simmons. So maybe you take Ben Simmons out, you have Tyrese Maxey come in that year. Maybe we're a little bit further down the line. Maybe the way we were watching a parade on Broad Street as opposed to a parade into wherever the hell they parade in Boston. I don't even know. I should know because they have so many of them. Anyway, so just love what I've been hearing from Tyrese Maxey in this offseason. And hearing him, first off, be there at the Summer League game is awesome. Then give the time for the interview, also great. I highlighted all last week about what a great presentation it was to Tyrese Maxey signing his extension. The great thing the Sixers did for him with the Tyrese Maxey Museum was bonkers. That's great. All that was awesome. So really enjoyed that. In the football world, I forget who put it out yesterday, but Saquon Barkley, and we've seen the stuff in the offseason about Saquon Barkley and the Giants and that parting of ways and all that stuff. Well, the numbers came out because if you're following Hard Knocks, one of the things that came out was $1 million difference. And this is the way it went down. Saquon Barkley apparently offered, and this is through Hard Knocks, a 3-year, $37.5 million deal with $25 million guaranteed by the Giants prior to signing with the Eagles. Now, the Giants offered 3 years, $37.5 million. The Eagles offered 3 years, $37.75 million. So what are we talking about there? $250,000 more. And $1 million more on a guaranteed signing bonus. So the Giants offered 25, the Eagles offered 26. That is a decision made not about money. Credit to the Giants. If you're a Giants fan, you got to be thinking, oh, all right, well, financially speaking, the Giants weren't being cheap bastards when it came to trying to retain the services of Saquon Barkley. That's good. Then, right after that, you have to think, damn it, we suck. This guy knows we suck, and he does not want to be here because he doesn't want to be on a team that sucks. He'd rather be on a team with an MVP caliber quarterback, despite the crazy shade being thrown in his direction, a pretty damn solid offensive line minus Jason Kelce, and a right guard you don't know whether or not you can trust yet, but I got confidence in. The thing that makes you so confident about the offensive line is obviously Jeff Stoutland. Can we just get that out of the way? Okay, good. And then you're going to play in an offense with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. That feels pretty good. Oh, and Dallas Goedert, your tight end? That's pretty good. And you're going to have Kellen Moore as your offensive coordinator? That's also pretty good. Oh, and you've been to the Super Bowl. You've been to the playoffs the last 3 years. This is a franchise decision that Saquon Barkley made. It is not a decision about money. And really, that makes it feel a lot sweeter. As much as it might make Giants fans feel bitter. This tastes pretty sweet in Philadelphia. Just say, well, hold on a second. It was about the money. Oh, wait, no, it wasn't. It was about the talent and the belief and the ability to win. All right. I mean, location to his family. Like, it's funny. The location and proximity to his family is about the same as the money. Like, it's not that big a deal. Like, it's not that much of a difference. You're talking about, what, 3.5 hours versus 2.5 hours? I think it's pretty good. So when I saw the money, I first off, I looked at the numbers again, and I went, that's not that much of a difference. We're talking about $1.25 million difference. Yeah, maybe the Giants just suck. And the Eagles are like set up for success. Go figure. Like I was looking at it, I was like, I'm trying to be the least homer I could possibly be in this deal. But this is pretty great. It's pretty fantastic. And then, of course, I went down the rabbit hole again of that Jalen Hurts hate that he's been getting. And I'll fall back to what I fell back to yesterday, which was the Jeremy Fowler report that was out there about how people don't see him as ever being a top 5 quarterback. And I just can't help but think, were the people that were polled, the people that were asked, the NFL, executives, were they living under a rock for the last 2 years? Because in the last 2 years of the 34 weeks that you've watched him play football games, 34 games, for 28 of those games, he's either been the MVP of the league or the runner-up to the MVP of the league. And you're talking, so that's the best or second best. And people are saying he won't ever be a top 5. He's already been. Like this, what are we even talking about here? Like, I feel like that is the hottest of takes. To say he'll never be when he's already been. Like, it's not even a take, it's just inaccurate. It's just wild. But to take a step back from it and give some credibility to these people for a second, if you're Kellen Moore, if you're Nick Sirianni, if you're quarterback Coach Nussmeier, Coach Nuss, who tried recruiting him to Florida all those years ago, is that where it was? If you're those guys, if you're Kellen Moore and Coach Nuss, what are you going to work on with Jalen Hurts this year? If you're looking at the film of Jalen Hurts, what's the first thing you're doing? After making sure he's 100% healthy, because I still don't believe he went through last season 100% healthy. And when I say that, I don't mean anything to do with, his throwing ability or anything like that. I'm talking about that knee never looked right. Never looked right. And in instances where it looked pretty good, you would see him run and be like, oh, he's fine. And then on another run, you'd be like, oh, maybe he's not fine. So I never really trusted that he was 100% healthy last year. Not an excuse, just an observation. So after you're making sure that he's healthy this year, what are the coaching points for Jalen Hurts? Number one, coaching point. Situational football. Number one, situational football. It's the easiest thing to correct. So I'm just saying, let's get this out of the way. 1st and 10, we're up by 4 in the fourth quarter, and we're on the opponent's 48-yard line. You don't need a deep ball down the field to, in this case, Quez Watkins. You don't need that. Up by 5, was it? Maybe it was 3. I forget what it was against the Commanders in the first game. You don't need to throw the ball down the field in the fourth quarter with 3:30 to go when you're up like this on the Commanders to A.J. Brown. You don't need that. Situational football. Thinking out. What do I need here? What puts me in the best possible spot to win a game? Do that. And usually the things that are the smallest things to do will also be the easiest things to do and also the smartest thing to do. So keep on doing that. Situational football. First coaching point to Jalen Hurts. The other is you and Cam Jurgens are bunk buddies. I want you guys to build bunk beds at the NovaCare complex. I want you guys just to hang out. All right? You guys become besties. Get on the same page. I want you guys to know what the other is getting for lunch at catering before you get out there for the second half of the day. I want you to be that ESP between the two of yous. And then, obviously, the defense. Look it up, diagnosing what they're doing, and then exploiting the hell out of it. One of the scary things was after the Jets game, they were talking to I forget who it was with the Jets, but they were talking to him after the game, and he had the interception, and he said to seal it. And he said the coaches just said, go up to the line of scrimmage, show blitz, and drop back. And he's going to throw it right to you. He goes up to the line of scrimmage, he drops back at the snap. Jalen Hurts throws it right to him. You can look at that twofold. You can look at that as Jalen Hurts, you're that predictable. You can also look at it as Nick Sirianni, you're so predictable. This offense is so predictable. And that was one of the big criticisms that came out of last season from Derek Gunn, as a matter of fact. So predictable. Don't be so predictable. Those are the things that I'm looking at with Kellen Moore. Those are the coaching points. Those are the things I'm going to be going over with Jalen Hurts right out of the gate. Situational football, getting on the same page with his new center, and also diagnosing what's in front of him. Everything else, Jalen Hurts, if he's healthy, he can do. He is a phenomenal athlete. Phenomenal. He can be a phenomenal quarterback. No question. And what I praise about Jalen Hurts more than anything is his mentality and how aggressive he has been in his career to attack anything that has been a deficiency in his game. Last year, I think, yes, some of it had to do with health. Some of it had to do with what was going on between the ears and bad situational football. And then, especially against Tampa, man, Todd Bowles just having his number. Just having his number and knowing how to play against him. But the thing that makes me confident that after this season, it won't be a conversation. I mean, it should already not be a conversation, but I get why people are down on Jalen Hurts after last year for the way last year ended. And yes, I understand it was the whole team that was playing terrible. But it's the thing that makes me want Jalen Hurts to be the quarterback here for the next 15 years. And that's what he's got going on between the ears. If he is bad at something, if he doesn't feel like something's going right, Jalen Hurts then attacks it in the offseason because he's got a phenomenal work ethic. And that's something I'm not betting against. I never bet against a guy with a great work ethic and a boatload of talent. He's got both those things. So for all the people that want to go, oh, not a top 10 quarterback. They realize he's already been a top 2 quarterback. And for the majority of the last 2 years, he's been a top 2 quarterback. But if you want to talk about he's not top 5, bold. Very bold. Anyway, let me tell you about MyBookie. MyBookie.ag. Download the MyBookie app to your phone, create an account, use promo code FARZI, and get up to $1,000 redeemable cash bonus at MyBookie. MyBookie.ag. How about the Game Time app? Now, Phillies aren't going to be back in town for Friday, Thursday? Friday they're back in South Philly. They got 3. Middle of next week they're back. Yeah, 3 in Pittsburgh. If you want to drive out to PNC, if you've never been to PNC, it's awesome. Download the Game Time app to your phone. Create an account, use promo code FARZI, and you get $20 off your first purchase. They got last-minute ticket deals. They got flash ticket deals. They even have ticket deals for an hour after the event starts. Download the Game Time app to your phone, create an account, use promo code FARZI. Get $20 off your first purchase. They also have it for concerts, for comedy shows. You can download the Game Time app, and you can go to those concerts, comedy shows. And how about this? If you don't want to see the opening act, you don't care about the middle either, but you want to save on seeing the headliner, they even have tickets available for an hour after the event starts for mega, huge, kajunga savings on the Game Time app. So download the Game Time app to your phone and take advantage also of the Game Time guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less money elsewhere, the Game Time app will get you back at 110% of the difference. They will credit your account 110% of the difference. That's the Game Time guarantee for the guaranteed lowest price each time on the Game Time app. So once again, download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code FARZI, get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply on the Game Time app. Also, how about the amazing people at PHL Sports Station, Philadelphia Sports Station, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsStation.com. Let's get into the chat check and see how you guys are doing. Mike Fredell, what's going on? Top of the morning to you. Back at you. IBH, good morning. Jason A., good morning. Chad Crawford, good morning. Sean Kilrain, what's happening? Sean Kilrain, she said she was drunk. Well played. Fergie. I still go Carl Lewis, Fergie, and then this Ingrid lady. Carl Lewis, the thing that makes Carl Lewis the worst is that he was really trying to sing. And he knew he was terrible. And he just kept going. And he was like laughing. That's the worst. Like when the person themselves acknowledges this is going terribly, you kind of know. Fergie just kind of stuck to it, man. Yeah. And this is Ingrid lady. She stuck to it too. No jokes. Not making any jokes. She has an issue she's dealing with. Just judging on performance. So when I say someone going out there and trying to sing the national anthem, obviously that excludes Roseanne, because I'll never forget that when I was a kid. And people forget it wasn't just her singing the national anthem or attempting to. It was her screaming it and then spitting. I remember, I'll never forget this. Singing it, trying to sing, shout, screaming it, spitting on the ground, and then I think she went and hugged her husband at the time, Tom Arnold. I don't know if they were married at the time or not. I think they were, but I think they were together. And I just remember thinking, that was horrible. And I was like 9 or 10 whenever that happened. And I'm like, really? Okay, I thought she was funny. That wasn't funny. Anyway. Yeah, she's getting the help she needs. April! Good morning, April. What's going on? Jonathan Harvey. Phillies stars were solid. Webb in that Reds pitcher pitched like he wanted to give up home runs. Yes, he did. What was Webb's final line? Yeah. Oof. That's so, I mean, not that it matters, but yeah, it's technically a blown save for Webb because he gave up the 3-run home run to Shohei Ohtani. It wasn't great. Was it? Who am I thinking of? Was it Suarez? No, he was in San Diego. Who the hell was it? Hunter Green. That's right. Yeah, that was a dinger. Sure it was. Big old dinger. Love that Harper said that, Jason A. So do I. Mihai Sanchez! Where you been, bud? Good morning, Mark and family. Harper is the de facto team captain, certainly. Second half is going to be fire, ring the bell, extra bench piece, and a reliever at the deadline. I agree. Jonathan Harper was on. Dave Dombrowski is the best GM in Philly sports. I hope Dave adds an outfielder with a better bat than Rojas and Pache. I agree. Good morning. It's time to get back to work. Let's go for 120 wins. That's all? 110. 110, James. Let's go 110 wins, babe. Sean Gillespie, what's going on? It's Prankster. Hey, Prankster. John Larry, bullpen needs to be addressed concerning closer. Absolutely. Oh, wow. IBH, that's cool. I've coached kids at every age, elementary through college, and I'll take locker room chemistry over talent every time. JB, 9 times. Was that a Ferris Bueller reference there, Farzy? I mean, I feel like anytime you say 9 times, like if your mind doesn't immediately go to Ferris Bueller, we can't be friends. By the way, shout out to my buddy Bennett who did me the good service of showing me that movie. I mean, we were probably in late high school, and I had never seen the movie. And then he finally said, it was a rainy day down Cape May. I remember. He's like, you don't know about Ferris Bueller? I was like, oh, yeah, I've heard about that. Is it any good? He's like, oh, my God, it's amazing. And it was. It was phenomenal. So I think it was like maybe freshman year. No, probably junior or senior year of high school. I finally watched that. Phenomenal. If you don't say 9 times and think of Ferris Bueller, we're not friends. Jalen will use these stupid takes as fuel. Now, Sean, on that point, excuse me. Let me bring that back. What the hell? What the hell? There we go. So it got back to me, and I talked about this at the time. And we had Joe Santoliquito on, who I know a lot of people in Delaware Valley owe an apology to, because his stuff with Carson Wentz turned out to be dead on balls accurate. But he wrote a story about Jalen Hurts, and it was not as damning of Jalen Hurts' quality. And I remember my take on it at the time was, I remember reading the Carson Wentz story and being like, we're doomed. I remember reading the Jalen Hurts story and thinking, some things to work on. Little inclusion for Jalen Hurts. Everyone feeling welcome. Everyone feeling on the same page. Oh, that's great. But the interesting thing with Jalen Hurts is that in that story, it talked about how he kind of did the banquet tour. You know, the a la Cole Hamels after the 2008 World Series, doing the banquet tour. And everyone telling you how great you are, and you're getting endorsement deals. Everybody wants your time, and they're paying you well, and you have an opportunity to cash some big paychecks, not just from the team, from outside that. Set yourself up for life and generations after you. So he took full advantage of it. And was it a distraction? It certainly seemed like it was a distraction, but he got paid. So now he's paid. Okay? If you want to use that as an excuse, I don't like it. But if you're trying to rationalize what the hell happened, does it excuse anything? No. But could it be a reason for not working on his craft as much as he had in previous years? Sure. So, hey, no banquet tours this year, Bep. You know what I'm saying? No banquet tours this year. Nothing but foosball to go out there and practice and play. A new offensive coordinator. Arguably, I mean, we know the result with Shane Steichen was a runner-up to the MVP award. 2 games shy due to an injury of winning the MVP for Jalen Hurts. Maybe a holding call, a defensive holding call in the Super Bowl away from winning the Super Bowl as the straw that broke the camel's back. And we're talking about a Super Bowl champion, Jalen Hurts. Nobody's knocking on the door. So you can make the argument, get back to the point, sorry. You can make the argument that right now he's got the best offensive coordinator he's ever had. I mean, he does on paper going into it. He has the best offensive coordinator he's ever had. Shane Steichen was the one that worked best with him because so far he's the only one that we've seen, and we've seen the end result. So can Kellen Moore take him to that next level? Get him back to that higher level. JB, what's going on? Hurts needs to improve his decision-making. Too many plays with 0 or negative yards. I would agree. I think the biggest thing with decision-making has to do with the situational football. And I feel like the Seattle game, obviously, that's just stupid. I'm not even talking about the end of the game interception. He doesn't try to throw that ball. I know it's Quez Watkins. Everyone wants to focus on that. But he doesn't throw that ball to Quez Watkins. They win that game. No question. It's also, as far as decision-making, another coaching point, and this one just popped in my head thinking about that, and thank you, JB, for putting this in my head as well. If you're Kellen Moore and you get done talking about being on the same page as your center, and you talk about situational football, and reading the defense, because all these things combine. Like, I can't just say, less turnovers. No. It's about how you get less turnovers, right? But another thing that has to go into it, and it kind of goes along with situational football, is every once in a while, take the single. You have Saquon Barkley open at the line of scrimmage, and you have Devontae Smith covered, but you have confidence he's going to go up and get it. And, maybe just take the single. Just dump it down. Little dump down to Saquon Barkley, who could then take it for 25 yards because he's really good at football. You have Kenny Gainwell right there in the flat. Hey, a little dump down. Hey, a little dump down. The Saquon Barkley thing, though, now that I'm into that, the Saquon Barkley thing, that should help the idea of Jalen Hurts dumping down. Because dump down could still be 20 yards for Saquon Barkley. It's not just dump down 2 yards, Kenny Gainwell. It's dump down 25 yards. It's like you can still get the big play because you're putting that ball in the hands of a playmaker. And I give Howie Roseman a lot of credit. When he was asked about signing a running back to that kind of money, well, first off, the Giants were going to do the same thing. And second, you're not signing a running back. You're signing a weapon. So good for him thinking that way. Who do you think starts opposite Slay, says Charles Deed. I still think James Bradbury has played his last game as an Eagle. I'm going to say I have it really close right now between Keely Ringo and Quenyon Mitchell. Keely Ringo, one of my major takeaways, and I don't mean to cop out here, but I just have it really close between those two. And if I had to say right now, Keely Ringo. If I had to say right now, it's Keely Ringo. The thing that makes it so close with not just the fact that it's a rookie and not just a first-round pick, but also the fact that one of the first things Quenyon Mitchell said about Vic Fangio's defense was like, oh, yeah, we did a lot of this stuff at Toledo. So I'm like, remember that going to the thinking there that he's already kind of familiar with what Fangio wants to do. And the kind of defense they run in Toledo is very similar, so it doesn't have to make that big of a jump, and it's not that different. It's not a foreign language, whatever. But I think Keely Ringo, one of the things that really jumped out to me at minicamp, some of my biggest takeaways were that one of them was Keely Ringo just being like, yeah, don't forget about me, man. That's pretty good last year. That was pretty good. And when the Eagles made the decision to draft 2 corners with their first 2 picks in the draft, his reaction wasn't sulking. His reaction was bring on the competition. Let's go. But I am almost positive that Cooper DeJean will not be starting opposite Darius Slay. So if I had to say right now, I'm going to go with Keely Ringo, the incumbent, and Quenyon Mitchell rising to the occasion maybe in training camp. Mullet Alvarado! Oh, that's right. She grabbed her crotch. Allora. Hold on one second. Let me see this. Roseanne. Wait, she's still in Wikipedia as Roseanne Barr? That's great. Oh my God. It was 1990. I was like 8. Is my volume on? I don't want my volume on. I just want to fast forward to the end here. Where is this John? Yes, play. Oh, an ad? What is this, amateur hour? I know you guys love when I do the live research. I've actually never YouTubed this. It's the first time I'm doing this. I just want to go to the end. And the home of the brave. Yeah, there we go. Oh, I think there was a little crotch grab there. I think you're right, Mullet. Let's see here. Yep, she's done. Look, it might have been a more lewd act than a crotch grab. But she definitely spit. And then she hugged Tom Arnold and his mullet. Yep. Oh, why did I remember that? By the way, one of the best Saturday Night Live weekend update things ever was Chris Farley as Tom Arnold and Victoria Jackson as Roseanne Barr on Weekend Update. I think it was with Dennis Miller. And Chris Farley actually showed his butt. And that's pretty great. Anyway. Oh wait, is this jerk? Not Jerks. Oh God, what was it? Clerks. It's 37. Yes, thank you. It is Clerks. Yes, in a row. So, all right, Mullet. I'll say it. What she does at the end of it reminds me more of how Shohei Ohtani celebrated his stolen base last week. That's what it reminded me more of. Anyway, thanks everybody in the chat. You guys are wonderful as per usual. And April, I do remember you made that reference to me before, and it went over my head. Let's get to the Morning Rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. This is the worst sports day of the year. The day after the All-Star game. Yeah, I got nothing. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You guys are great, as per usual. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show, presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Thanks for being along for the ride. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow. We'll be kicking it. Don't you worry. Talk to you guys then. See you.